Hello. I hope everybody's having a great Sunday evening slash Monday morning. Matt isn't here, and I'm sure he would be here if he was feeling better, but he's not. And for all that I've had a really rubbish couple of weeks, I need you guys. So there was no way I wasn't going to visit with you all. So hi, how is everybody? I see we have some people here already, which makes me happy. Sorry, my air conditioner just went off. Anyway, Evie may be joining us in a little while, but for now it's just me because this was reasonably short notice. That's okay. I don't really have anything of note to report. Oh, actually, that's a lie. Because last week I was asked what the giant ball was I was rolling up, and I said I was making a rug. I have made a start on said rug. The rug has been begun. Hooray. So it will be a big giant oval when I'm done. So there you go. I have done something this week. I've done a thing, which is unusual. Actually, no, it's not. I'm always doing something, but it's been journaling. I've done a lot of journaling this week because brain stuff, it helps, and I've needed it. So, but between that and sewing, and I still haven't finished the cross stitch that I've been doing even now for nearly 2 years, but that's my next project. And I have some curtains that I need to make because my house is really cold, but only in the middle of the night because I'm on the side of a hill. So I'm mostly protected from the weather, but if there's no cloud cover, the heat just goes and vanishes into the ether. So while it warms up very quickly because I'm east facing and I get the sun coming up every day, it's cold at night. So I need another layer of curtains, and that's a not urgent problem, but it would make winter a little less, cold. So anyway, we have quite a few people in the chat now, so let's have a quick hello. Obviously, Thana was here before everybody else, going, yay, there is somewhere to be today. And the Book Lounge, who has recently joined the Fireside Discord, so welcome. I hope you're enjoying the conversations there. Who else have we got? We've got Sia here, K2, and Ida, and Sam. Hi. I hope your internet's doing better today, Sam. I caught some of your live with Josh. Was it yesterday or the day before? It was the middle of the night. I don't know what day it was. Oh, Daniel's here too. Lovely. And yeah, there was a storm and your internet was very spotty for when I was there. So I hope the weather has improved where you are, Sam, because I'm guessing it was pretty dire. I hope everybody's doing okay. The weather here isn't too bad. We've had a lot of rain. And it's winter, of course we have. It's kind of the season for it, but it's meant that the local wildlife has come to visit quite a lot, which has been really charming. So I get the wild parrots, these native birds, they're called a kaka, and I've actually got put a little video up in the Pet Channel, in the Fantasy Network, and in the Menagerie at the Library of Alexandria. If you want to have a look at this rather beautiful kind of parrot that we have here. And I feed them apple, and I feed them pears, and they don't show a preference, but they get a slice. And as I was saying to my grandson yesterday, the day before, having fruit here for the wildlife means I am eating fruit. I don't like fruit. I was a child in the 70s and 80s. If it didn't come in a box that you added stuff to, then that was too much hard work for my parents. So, and fruit was expensive. So my eating habits from very young didn't include fruit. The state of my teeth clearly will tell you this. But yeah, I'm not a fan of fruit. I don't like the face it makes you make. You know, when you have fruit and it's actually really good, but your face goes. the only thing in the world that makes you make that face, and you keep eating it. And I don't like it because I don't like that face. However, oh, Brian's in the house. Hey, Brian. Exactly. Why would you go to Germany when you can come to New Zealand? Having said that, I imagine German beer is better than Kiwi beer. I could be wrong. We've got some really lovely craft breweries here. But we do have better coffee. And I don't even drink coffee, and I know this, but we are very much a coffee culture in New Zealand. Everything from your filter coffee standard black through to the really fancy kind of frothy, flavoury jobbies. But apparently it's really great. I will take other people's word for it because I can't even stand the smell of coffee. But I am on my second cup of tea for the day. Who else have we got here? Bex is here. Hi, Bex. Haven't seen for a while. But then again, I haven't really been very present on Discord for a while, so yeah. Sorry about that, everybody. It's one of those really strange things where I need you guys for my mental health. The only other person I interact with regularly is the driver who delivers my groceries, who I see once a week for about 3 minutes. Yeah. So you guys are my social interactions, and I need that because, it's good for you to have friends. And yeah, it's how I know I'm struggling when I kind of look to go into Discord and go, oh, I can't. Sorry. I should do better, but it's been a lot lately. But that's okay. And Paul is here. Apparently it's very wet where Paul is. Now I know he's reasonably local to me, so it hasn't rained since sometime yesterday, which is a pretty long dry spell for how it's been lately. It's all good. It is quite entertaining because I do live on a reasonably steep hill. I live in Wellington. This is the thing. But it's down a long private driveway on the side of a hill, and it's not sealed. It's hard packed gravel, and it's old. So there are parts of it that are solid, and there are parts of it that are kind of rutted and green, because lots of trees and greenery, and we're on the hillside of a bushy part of New Zealand. And there are people further down the drive than me. And it's been fun listening to their cars slip as they're going up the hill. Like you can hear the tyres just trying really hard to get traction, and there is none. I'm honestly waiting for the day where it's a sudden lack of sound and a bang because they've just slid down the hill. So, okay. Kato's been watching a young bloke on YouTube, lives in his van, he's a fishing channel. Yeah, the fish here are great. Like seriously great. My nephew, well, my best friend's son, my heart nephew, he's a fisherman. He's a very young man, but he is a very good fisherman. And he gets on a bus because he's too young for a car. He gets on a bus with his fishing rod and his gear, and he just buses to the beach. And he might be there all day, but he'll come home with a bag of fish, and it'll be like 3 pretty decent sized fish, and it doesn't get any fresher. Like seriously. He then comes home. We send him down to the garage. He scales it, guts it, and we eat it for tea. Oh, so good. I like this bit. I do like this. I actually, before the stroke, ducked down to the floor in order to avoid someone at your door. I feel this in my soul. I'm so sorry that you had to think of this so much. I'm not at all. I'm glad that you associate me with New Zealand. New Zealand is awesome, and I like being connected to something so awesome. And Peter's here. By local, you mean 12,000 miles. I'm in England. It's done nothing but rain all day. Oh, of course, it's Wimbledon. The tennis is on. It's going to rain. Why do I think you're local? There'll be a reason. You'll have said something that I've gone, no, he's not far away. It will come to me. But yes, it always rains for Wimbledon, just the same as it always rains when you're moving house. I don't know how the world does that, but I don't think I've ever moved house and it hasn't rained. And I've moved house a lot. Like, a lot. But yes. What else have I got to talk about? What usually amounts, really. I did watch, what did I watch? I watched something that was really interesting. It can't have been that interesting because I've forgotten it. Oh, that's what it is. I've been, because, no life. I watch reactors reacting to things that I like on YouTube. And one of the things I like to watch is House of the Dragon. And there's been a few reactors to it, and most of them are from the States. And it always strikes me as not funny, just peculiar, that there's not, I always feel like they haven't grasped why some things happen. And I have recently discovered a British bloke who's up in Yorkshire, I think. No, he's not in Yorkshire, he's in Newcastle. And he gets it. Like, he just gets it. And I think it's because people who live under a crown in a country that has always been ruled by a monarch with a history that has all of the things that are similar to things in Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, they just get why. And so when he's watching House of the Dragon and the second wife has a son, and he immediately went, oh, that's a problem. That's a problem. That there's going, oh, yeah, nah. I was like, oh, he gets it. He understands. Because people get caught up in the fact that these two warring factions are all about who they've sworn to and who they haven't, and who the royal people are supporting, and don't seem to see beyond that. And that when you live in a country ruled by a royal family, everybody else in the country, if they believe that the next person to the throne should be somebody other who is the named heir, they're going to cause a problem. Whether the people in the capital or the castle or the keep or wherever, whether or not they want a rebellion, one will happen. So yeah, I have enjoyed that. I have enjoyed that so very much this week, watching House of the Dragon with someone who just gets why there's so much pressure in that series was so incredibly satisfying. Which seems like a really silly thing to be satisfied, to be honest. But it was so great. I find it frustrating when I know that there's greater depth to something that is just missing in context. So, anyway, am I talking about Fitz Funnel? I'm actually not. I'm talking about in House of the Dragon, the named heir is a daughter. The father has remarried, and the second wife has now had a baby boy. So this is young Aegon. And yeah, quite rightly, by the reactor, it was a problem. So yeah, it was a problem. I'm really enjoying House of the Dragon. I don't mind that George doesn't like it, because he sold the rights to it. So, sorry. Having said that, the showrunners seem to be keeping to the major beats, which is really all there is. It's all good. Hey, Britain. I've got a link, actually. I might just send you a link. One moment, please, campers. I'm going to send Britain a link because, honestly, I feel a bit weird talking to you all by myself. Some company would be nice and Evie isn't here yet. Which, she's allowed. Leaving me here all by myself. How rude. Right. We are going to sing. when I find you. There we go. Copy and paste. There we go. You have an invite. Here we go. Joking. On account that everyone wants to kill Fitz just because someone might use his heritage. That's right. And it does get explained really well in Farseer, which is something that isn't done in House of the Dragon. There's an assumption that you're going to grasp that already. But as I've found, having watched so many people watching House of the Dragon who don't have that in their culture, it gets lost. So, but Fitz is the rightful king of the Six Duchies. But it's one of those thematic kind of things, isn't it? Where if you look at some just individual things, A Song of Ice and Fire and The Realm of the Elderlings are surprisingly similar. They've got a lot of the same elements, and yet the stories couldn't be more different. One of them is this grand scale, epic, sweeping thing, and the other is a really intimate sort of story of somebody's life. And yet, we've got an unknown king, we've got a wolf companion, we've got the dragons returning from, obsolescence, and it's crazy. And yes, Panel, I don't know about Farseer being better than it has any right to be, because, all books have a right to be awesome, but perhaps more awesome than expected. Because when you think, and to be fair, some readers do do experience. It's just a slow, plodding story, and they're not thrilled by it, and they bounce off. Those of us who appreciate what's going on and it resonates with us, the intensity of what's happening is so gloriously done that it doesn't matter that there aren't many big things happening, or when there are big things happening, it's not focused on, because we're not looking at the big picture, we're looking at one person's life. But I promise you, because I've read them enough to be able to say so, the big stuff going on around that character is important. And if you notice them happening, everything makes more sense. Because that's just like life, We're all busy living our own lives and there's stuff going on around us. Christ, there's wars all over the place. Anyway, stop. We're trying to be in a good mood this week. Okay. Hey, David. Here we go. Book Lounge got Fireside Trilogy. I'm so excited that you're going to pick it up. This is no surprise to anybody here. I genuinely get excited when people pick up the series. I'm like, oh, I hope you love it. Because I just want everybody to love it, because I love it. And then if other people love it, then I get to talk to more people who love it. Doesn't get any better. David, question. What is your favourite Discworld subseries? Hey, Brennan. Are you driving?
No, I'm sitting in the back seat of a car, though.
Well, that's kind of all right then. I have a favourite subseries of Discworld. Britton can't, because he has only read one book. But you are going to read Men at Arms soon.
Yes, hopefully soon, yeah.
Mine...
I was going to get it last week, but I was heading to Arkansas, so only was able to get Starman before I could hit it. So yeah, I only got one thing.
All good. I like The Witches. I like The Witches not only because they have a very feminine perspective. Obviously, they're witches, so the main characters are women.
Oh,
but they love story the same way I do. They're about the power of words and the power of belief. And if you can structure the world in such a way that people think this way, you have control on it. And I love that. I love that as a thing. So yeah.
I'm liking City Watch so far.
Hey, don't get me wrong. I don't not love the other sub-series, because I totally do. It's just my favourite is The Witches. And yet I also absolutely adore the much, much later arc with Moist von Lipwig, the Industrial Revolution books that start with Going Postal. I adore those books so much. Those characters are to die for.
Yeah, yeah, I did start Gardens of the Moon this last weekend because I was peer pressured and trying Malazan, so that's what I'm
Yeah,
having fun.
that's okay because there's a massive Malazan community. It seems like the wrong word, but it is what it is in BookTube. And yeah, they can be quite rabid. It's only because I
Yes,
have the excuse of new books being hard that they back off me. Because I will get there, I promise. But I
I
don't get
should
the same
note.
pressure.
I've been telling it to everyone I could find, but like it hasn't been that difficult so far. You just have to pay attention and you'll be
Yeah,
fine. But then again, I'm only about 50 pages in, so I probably shouldn't get too cocky just yet.
I think it's a case of just let your own experience be your own experience. I mean, there's people who have, it's been their very first fantasy, and you're like, what? Who have been fine with it. Does that mean they haven't grasped some of the intricacies? I don't know.
Well, I'm not
But
saying like I don't get why people say that because like Erickson he just throws you in with no life raft. You're just like okay yeah.
it's like sink or
Sure,
swim. Yeah.
there's these weird guys with mutant dogs running around. Oh, okay, yeah. There's a random source. There's an assassin who took over the kingdom. Who's an
Well,
assassin? Okay, like that. That's not really spoilery. That's established in the first like 50 pages. So you know.
yeah. It's I think it'd be really hard to spoil Malaz in particular. Well, to me anyway, because I'm not going to remember these kind of details. And by the time I read it, I imagine I'll be so overwhelmed so quickly that anything I have remembered is just going to be pushed out anyway.
Fair enough.
Um,
Well, anyway, I thank you for inviting me. It's very kind of
that's
you.
It's all right. Peter's saying here a lot of talk about Realm of the Elderlings of people praising the later trilogies. So readers tend to be shocked when they fall in love with Farseer. Part of that within the people I deal with anyway is my managing of expectations because people can also come into Farseer going, people love Realm of the Elderlings, and then they read Farseer or they start to read Assassin's Apprentice and they're like, why? Nothing's happening. So I do kind of be like, no, we're going to praise all that. Like, read Farseer first. You need it for the building. And then, so I tend not to do any heavy praising of Farseer quite deliberately because it kind of needs you to just be open to it. But, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know if I mean I'm only 50 pages in, and I can tell like this has been that Malazan is like a very intricately built world. I don't know. I mean, I haven't with respect to Robin Hobb, I haven't read her stuff yet, but I imagine it's not as detailed, unless it is. And I'm just again talking out my ass here.
I think from what because I haven't read Malazan, from what I understand, the difference is in scale.
But
In that,
you have read Hobbs, so you could probably go like you can being ridiculous, and you would be right
but
because I
this is
haven't
the
read
thing.
any
I've read
Robin
one,
Hobb.
you've read one, and we both only know of the other through what other readers have told us.
That's fair. That's
So,
fair. Okay, yeah.
you know, I know that Hobb is very intimate. It's a very personal story, and you just kind of have
Mm.
to let it soak you in because it does. You become very immersed. It's a very it's a hug of a story. You're in it with them.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas from what I have heard, Malazan is more you're getting a lot. You're getting an entirely huge story from just lots and lots and lots of perspectives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think
Yeah,
that those are
I can
very
tell the story of
different.
Malazan is going to be a very big one because like
Yeah,
they're jumping around like we've already jumped around a decade well, I'm only 50 pages in.
precisely.
Decade
Rather
of
than
world time. I'm
literally,
like,
it's
oh my
been a few
god.
days. Yeah, because I mean, on the first couple of chapters of Farseer is like a week in a 6-year-old's life. So that's pretty different. But
That
yeah,
sounds more like my jam because I like intimate experiences.
although
It
again,
sounds bad.
people
No,
really
not
praise
not in
Erickson's
that way.
characters.
I mean, I'm burying myself deeper. I think I would like Robin Hobb stuff. Is what I was saying.
You will.
Not just saying that to
Very,
get brownie points with Derry.
it's a pretty easy thing to do. Although, to be fair, a really quick thing for you lately is to just pick up Men at Arms.
Yeah, I know. I need to do that. When I get home, I'll probably pick it up soon. It was definitely because I was on Amazon.
It's a quick, easy
I gotta
read.
pick it up.
You know,
It
the
is,
wonderful
yeah.
thing with Discworld is there's
That was a
never
fun
any
thing
pressure when
about.
you finish one to keep going.
Yeah, it was a fun thing about Guards was it. I enjoyed. It was an easy read for the most part. Like I didn't really have a lot of. Like it's not like you have to know all this stuff to get into it. You know.
No, it's very easy
It's
to
very
pick up
much.
a Discworld book and just experience
Like
the
if you're a
Discworld
fantasy
book.
nerd like I am, if you're a fantasy nerd like I am, there's a lot of fun stuff you can pick up on. But even without that, it's it's basically a cop book, but
Yeah.
in a fantasy world with a dragon.
Oh yeah. The watch books are very much a police procedural, but with all of the tropes taken to 1,000 with different races, or rather
I'm like,
different
oh,
species.
you like Luther? Oh yes. Well, you're in New Zealand, so I'm sure you're familiar with Luther. But yeah, you'll like um, guards.
Bex hasn't read it. If I disappointed Derry, I think I'd cry. You would not hate it. You would not. You really wouldn't. It just no. It's too much of an emotional hug. And thank you for saying that you like My Librarian. I also have a Grebo. I love Grebo. And just above where my camera can see, I also have a Death of Rats, because the Discworld Emporium is it's a money sink. I try not to go there very often because I don't have a lot of money. And so when I have some to spend, if I go to Discworld Emporium, I will spend all of it. Because they have some wonderful things.
And also, I would like to continue the Discworld Files because I had a lot of fun doing the first episode.
There's always so much to talk about in Discworld. Always.
And I was also pleasantly surprised. Like we already kind of went over this in Guards, but I was really surprised with the craft and I don't want to say the depth of the world building, but I like that he doesn't spell things out too much. There are some things he like goes like okay, but he doesn't really he doesn't info dump like I said in my and I said in the first episode of Discworld Files. I like that. It feels like you're encountering the world. It's opening itself up to you, which I think is the best kind of world building.
Okay, I just have to laugh at this. Edith made the comment, Hobb is a much more considerate author toward her readers than Erickson. And then just a couple of minutes later, she's gone, actually, I take that back. Both authors are evil. Funny. And yes, K Fox, I know you're a fan too. It always makes me happy that yes, Pratchett is in fact the best. And I know for myself, and I'm pretty sure, and I have heard K Fox do it as well. We can't help but call him Sir Terry. He's never just Terry. It's always Sir Terry because the man is amazing.
Yeah,
hey, how are you doing? And we've got a Tina Turner reference. Simply the best. Okay, here we go. Peter, sometimes I find the last 50 pages of Discworld to be a little confusing. There's all of the wacky things that happen regarding dungeon dimensions and magic. That's pretty specific to the Rincewind books, the Rincewind books.
I heard those are the weakest ones of the Discworld saga, if you will.
The early Rincewind books were far more of the parody satire of existing fantasy, and they aren't necessarily weak. They're not bad books, but they're not what Discworld becomes. So they stand out as being different. It's always tricky talking. They're the beta phase of Discworld, is what I call them, because they're just different. The Emporium has just released a letter welcoming you to the Watch, like they did for the Assassin's Guild and Unseen University. Oh my goodness, that's awesome! Oh, seriously, their Discworld stuff.
Well, speaking of that, it was also kind of cool seeing like how the city of Ankh-Morpork worked in Guards. Like all the criminals have their own regulations and governance and all that.
Oh yeah, if you're going to have crime, it should be organized.
Yeah,
and,
exactly. Yeah. So good. I'm like, this is fantastic. I love this.
It is just a remarkable intelligence to it. You know, where you can pay the Thieves Guild an annual fee and they won't rob you because they've got their money's worth from you already. There's something really quite charming about that. It's kind of a reverse insurance. It's so good. Oh. Oh, Thano, I do like this idea. Shade versus Mr. Tiotame, just for funsies. That would be entertaining. But Granny would still beat them both. So, you know. The evolution of Ankh-Morpork is one of my favourite parts of this series, says Peter. Yes, because it does
I've heard that they actually get movies in the world of Discworld, which I think is really fascinating because, like, a trope I like, but I don't really see get explored very often in fantasy, is the world changing. Sorry if you can hear my family in the background.
It's all right.
But
the evolution of Discworld.
I'm quite fascinated with that, so I'm kind of looking forward to seeing in Discworld whenever whenever I get around to that.
Well, I mean, just in that first book, Guards, it's really a pivotal moment in the city because the Watch has not been a functional part of the city. And the events in Guards suddenly make them relevant. And so that alters the way things work in Ankh-Morpork. And we continue to see that as the books develop. And later books that are set in the city could only have happened with the evolution of the city thanks to the changes in the Watch. So it's all very organic in the way that a lot of Discworld can be. And it's, what's the word I'm looking for? It's one of the advantages to reading them in order because you do get to see that growth in the world. But it's also makes things really fascinating if you read them out of order because you get a sense just in the feeling of the city where you are in the timeline just because of how behavior in the city is. You know, at one point in time in the city during Guards, you know, if you go into the Broken Drum, you're going to get involved in a bar brawl and you may end up floating or sitting on top of the river. Later in the series, if you go into what then becomes the Mended Drum, the bar brawls are more of a tourist attraction. It evolves.
That's great. It's I mean in more conspiracy that me and Alan are just the same person at different points in our lives. I think my favorite character right now is Vimes. I really like him a lot.
There's something wonderful about Vimes in that he's a good
because
man.
He's kind of like the sane man in this kind of crazy world. Well, maybe not sane. Maybe that's the wrong word, but he's kind of the straight man in this crazy
His
world.
eyes are open, and he refuses to.
He seems more grounded than. It seems more. He seems more grounded than some of the other guys. We'll say, because Nobsy's kind of. He's Nobsy.
Don't try and define Nobby yet. You don't know Nobby well enough.
Nobby, the sergeant seems like a pretty normal guy. Carrot's kind of naive, but he's not the not the brightest bulb, but he
There
tries.
is a
He's a good guy.
wonderful line
But
about
like Vime
Carrot.
seems like a generally grounded person for the most part.
Vimes is
Like
the everyman. He's the
like he
good
seems like
man
he's
who's just
lived.
doing the job and wishes things were better. And I
Hmm.
just love him. And K Fox knows the quote that I'm about to say, I know. And it defines Carrot beautifully. Simple is not the same as stupid.
Yeah, that's a good way
And
to put it. I was about to say, I don't think he's
Carrot
dumb.
is simple.
He's just kind of naive.
There's a wonderful, it's not even innocence. It's this optimism about him that, well, of course you're going to be a good person because, everybody is a good person, really. And somehow everybody wants to be when they're around Carrot because he's Carrot. So, and Paul, you actually have a pub called the Mended Drum. You have to go there. You have to go there and take a photo so that we can have a photo of you outside the Mended Drum. That would be the best. And yes, the insure ants policies is that's a great running joke. And Carrot is the greatest. He really is. Look at all this love for Carrot. I love it.
I'm not hating on Carrot. I'm just saying Vimes is my favorite character. So far, anyway. It could
Yep.
change as the series moves along. I know a lot of
It
people
may
like
not.
Death. I know a
There's
lot
a
of people
reason
like
he's so beloved.
Death and Carrot, and there's some other characters. The Granny
Yep,
Weatherwax, I think is her name. I know
it
a lot of
is.
people like her.
I love Granny Weatherwax. She's terrifying
Uh,
in the best way. She's
I'm sure
yeah,
there's other characters I'm missing out on because again, only read the one book.
that's okay. The wonderful thing is with Death, he shows up in almost every book. Of the 41 main books, he's in 40 of them, even if just
Mm,
for one interaction. Some of them he's in quite a lot. And some of them he's in as much as he's in the Death series books because
mm,
he's not ever the major plot line in the Death series. Um, he also evolves throughout the series because the very point of his existence is that it's people's belief that he exists that gives him form. So as people's beliefs change, so does he. I just and yes, that's exactly how I think about Granny K Fox. That is who I want to be when I grow up. Has always been who I wanted to be when I grow up, except that I'm now in my 50s and I've discovered that I'm actually turning into Nanny. And being Nanny Og, I can live with. She likes a drink. You know, she likes,
Also, the
she's
Dragon Lady's cool, but yeah, I think Vimes is probably my favorite character so far. I really.
I literally, before I set up this stream, I was in Discord talking to Tori about her new book because I love what she's doing there. And I've compared one of her characters to Lady Sybil because I love Lady Sybil. I'm like, this character reminds me of Lady Sybil because all of these reasons. And thank you for including this character because of all of these reasons. Lady Sybil is the best female character I think I have ever read in fantasy because she is incredibly powerful and also incredibly feminine. And her power is used gently. Her power is kindness. Her power is in connections. It's in just being a good person. And I love her for that so very much. I adore Sybil. And yes, I do also adore Adorabelle. So if I ever draw the two of you, I will draw you as Nanny and Carrot.
Thanks. It's kind of
Sorry.
funny someone said that because I remember I was swearing at one time for some reason, and some people at my work were just kind of like, "Oh, I didn't know you had that in you, Britain." I was like, "Well," I'm like, "You're always so quiet." I'm like, "Oh well, yeah, I'm
Yeah,
only human.
being
What can I
quiet doesn't
say?"
mean you can't be loud.
I was
It's
probably
something that I
complaining.
find
I was
funny.
probably complaining about something. I don't remember.
Well, people tend not to be angry about things that they do like. So, you know,
It's like, man,
it kind
that
of
was a
goes without
great
saying.
movie. I want to
Yeah.
punch it, you know? Yeah.
But what was that? There was there's a couple of good adaptations actually I would recommend that you watch. One of them is available on YouTube. It's Going Postal. It's the one I particularly love with Moist von Lipwig. And it's quite a good adaptation. It takes out some of the subplots because every adaptation does. But the characters they've got in it have been cast perfectly. Just
Yeah,
absolutely perfectly.
you really like the one for Troll Bridge, which is like a short story, if I recall
Yep,
correctly.
yep, I do. And yes, it is. And you're exactly right. And full points for paying attention. Because I do. That one it's a short story that he wrote. It's only a few pages. And it was adapted by an Australian company and they fan funded it, but they also had authorization from the Discworld estate to make it. So it's an official adaptation, and
Cool.
it is beautiful. It is perfect. It is the perfect. That is how you do an adaptation.
Yeah, you know, I kept
Perfect.
thinking when I was reading Guards of Guards, I'm like, man, someone should really do like a proper adaptation of this. But like, would it work in live action? I'm not sure. Maybe you could animate it.
Peter, we don't talk about that. Hi, Shadia. Sorry, we don't talk about the show that BBC America made. They got the rights to it before Terry died, and it was in production after he died, and the Discworld estate would have stopped it being created, but the wording in the contract meant that only Terry could take back the rights. The estate didn't have any say, and it. I rage quit out of it about 3 minutes in. I was like, how very dare you? So yeah, we
Yeah,
don't
they made
talk
like
about
an animated adaptation of something. I think it's called like Maurice or something. Maurice the Magic Cat or
There's been a
something like
few.
that.
The recent
Oh,
animation of Maurice and his educated rodents was really good. They had some
that might
big
be what it
names.
is.
They had some big
Yeah, I'm like,
names
I
doing
saw Hugh
voices in
Laurie
that.
was in it. I'm like, you know what? I saw Blackadder. I think he would do well in Discworld.
He does. He does do really well, and I think he would be valuable in any other
Oh,
kind
get
of
Stephen
narrative.
Fry in there with him. Oh man, like
Well, he was the
be a good
narrator of the
time.
film, and it was great.
Oh,
But
Stephen Fry
Amelia
was.
Clark was one of the voices as well. Um, Dany from Game of Thrones. But there's a number of and well-known British voices in Maurice and the Educated Rodent. There's a much earlier 2D animation that's not quite as strong, but is just fun to watch of Weird Sisters. And
Mm.
there's an animated of Soul Music. That one's actually better. I like Soul Music. There's an old Hogsfather. There's the Going Postal. There's
Yeah, I saw there was an adaptation with Hog's father. I think it has the one of the guys who plays Tea Time or whatever the
yep,
assassin guy. Um, he was in something. I can't remember what it was, but I definitely recognized him.
yeah, he's one of those faces.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know what's kind of funny? I was in Arkansas and I saw this dude sitting behind me at this chicken place I was eating at. I'm like, man, that guy looks real familiar. And
Okay.
I end up figuring out later it was Robbie Amell who was in Arrow or not Arrow. That's his cousin Steven. He was
Okay.
Firestorm in the Flash. He was the first one, and I'm like, oh, that's where I knew him from. It was really cool. I didn't get to meet him, but I saw him. It was pretty dope. I was like, man,
That's
what are you
pretty
doing all
dope.
the way out here in Arkansas? And then my grandmother saw an article about him. Like, that's the dude I saw. I knew I recognized him.
Okay. K Fox, I love this. K Fox, I feel like I say this too often, but I'll die on this hill that Studio Ghibli needs to do Tiffany Aching. I like this. I like this a lot.
Get that old Get that get that old grumpy bastard Miyazaki out of his sixth retirement. Do a Discworld adaptation.
I don't know, but it would be pretty amazing. For Hogfather, they reached into my brain and saw how I think Susan looks. Yes, they cast Susan perfectly, and that was what's her name, Michelle
Isn't
something.
Charles Dance in one of them?
Yep, he plays the patrician in Going Postal, and he is perfect. So perfect, like so perfect. You are absolutely.
Who was he? Sorry,
from
you cut out there for a minute.
That's okay. From this point on, you are allowed to visualize Charles Dance as Vetinari because it's perfect.
That sounds about right. I kind of viewed him as a less amoral Tywin, so that checks out.
It honestly, I was blown away by just how well he nailed that character. So good. And hi, Shad, lovely to see you.
I love Charles Dance. He was so good.
He was amazing in that. He really was. And Claire Foy played Adorabelle Dearheart, and she was glorious. She was absolutely wonderful. Now, somebody up here, I can't think who it is. Somebody asked me, here we go, Capricious Fox. What are we reading currently? Get on thing. You're reading Gardens of the Moon? Yeah?
Yeah, I am reading Gardens of the Moon. I'm also reading the first Star Wars High Republic book, Light of the Jedi, because I've been on a bit of a Star Wars kick recently. And
Nice.
I restarted Paper Girls, because I'm hoping to finish it. So the comic Paper Girls
by Brian K. Vaughan.
Yeah, I eventually will. I need to get that soon. It's not at my.
I'm not going to let you off that hook.
I know.
I'm reading toys.
I made a promise to myself. I'm going to at least read one or two more Discworld books this year. You know, I got
you need to get on that. It's July now.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. Well, July already.
I know. I'm reading
Tori's
most
new book?
recent, Cold Silver for Souls, and really enjoying that. It's very cinematic. Like I'm reading it and I can see it in my head. It would make such a good film. Like it would look so good. And I'm also on audio rereading again, because that's my thing. Eye of the Bedlam Bride, Dungeon Crawler Car 5. Yes.
I kind of embarrassed myself the other day on one of my YouTube videos. I was like, oh yeah, hoping to read Cold Silver for Souls if I find the time. And I forgot if Hunter was a male or female. And Tori's like, she's female. And I'm like, oh, yeah. I saw it. And I end up seeing an illustration of her later. I'm like, well, I feel like
nice. Also reading Project
to be fair, I had just woken up from a nap when I made that video. So,
you make all the excuses you like. You just have to read it. If you haven't read it yet, you're allowed to get it wrong. Donald's reading the last of Warhammer Capus, Kane novel, and Royal Assassin.
You know what's funny? Before you invited me to this, I was watching a skit from Daniel Green where he was in kind of drag, if you will. Hello, Edie. And he was pretending to be Robin Hobb. She's like, "Oh, could you send Fitz in real quick?" And I guess we see a first person of Fitz. He just grabs a gun, shoots Fitz, and then starts just beating up on him. I have no context for this, but I'm like, you know what? I think Derry would find this hilarious and probably sad. And he goes like, "I killed your dog." I was like, "Damn, dude, not playing."
Yeah, to be fair, Hobb has kind of done that. So, yeah. Funny how she's managed to make me forgive her for that. But hey, Evie, how are you?
What is up with this overlay? What is this? Is this new?
I don't know. It's just the StreamYard one. It was short notice.
Do you want it? I can remove it.
Feel free to play. By all means. DK Moon here. Oh, hello.
Dairy.
I'm listening.
I read that. Did you not see my rating for the Hedge Knight? It's at like 20 stars out of 5. Like,
I am
Yeah,
so excited,
Hedge
and I
Knight
don't
is
read.
really
I
good.
don't. I mute the ratings channel, so I don't see.
it is. It's. I mean, this might be because of the high that I'm on. It is my favorite novella / short fiction ever,
I'm so happy.
and I'm like halfway through the Sworn Sort. So
Yeah, it's good. It's a good book. I enjoyed it a lot.
So happy. Jimmy will be beside himself. He will be thrilled.
well, he recommended it to me. Well, I don't know why I air quoted that, but he did recommend it to me. He's like, "Hey, you should read that." And I'm like, so as I was reading the Hedge Knight, I was like bombarding him with Discord messages, and he was not responding. I'm sure he didn't even see them. And I'm like, "I'm sorry, not sorry for bombarding you." And then after I had finished, he's like, "Yeah, it's great." So
I'm so happy. I'm really thrilled that you've enjoyed that. I really, really am. Because they are very cleverly written. Oh, wait, there's more.
More goodies. That's a lot of
It's
books.
very exciting.
No, Hedge Knight's a good book. It's a good little, like, if you're like, man, Game of Thrones is freaking depressing, you should just read Dunk and Egg. That'll pick you up.
It could also be overwhelming too. You know, you get the rabid kind of fandom about Game of Thrones.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Much softer entry into it. Oh,
What's that?
Son of Ice and Fire. So
that's a Son of Ice and Fire. Nice.
I went to the bookstore today, and I'm like, so I was telling some folks on Jimmy's Discord that I was like, this might move it up or whatever, because I freaking love Dunk. I love Dunk so much. So
I have goosebumps.
I'm sad to say he is not in the main Song of Ice and Fire series, but he's mentioned.
Yeah. So,
but it's like anything, though, isn't it? It's the Dunk and Egg stories are that soft entry into this is the writing, this is the world. This is just a much less high stakes story. But it's a flavor of what you're going to get.
Yeah, it's kind of his Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser. It's kind of his Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser is how I like to describe to people. Not as horny, but it's definitely an apt comparison. You know, these two kind of brigands, if you will, get into wacky misadventures.
It's one of the basic tropes, isn't it, of fantasy? There's the mismatched characters.
That's also what the Locke Lamora series is. Again, not as the Locke and John Dona chase tail as much as Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser do, but it's definitely very similar.
It all goes back to, in my head, Don Quixote.
That's a good point.
Very much.
I've not read Don Quixote, but I know what it is. Kind of like the first postmodern book, I guess, for better terms.
It's one of the first. No, postmodern would mean that it has to be modern. It was written in the 1600s, so.
Oh well. Yeah. Okay, fine. The proto postmodern is that a good way to put it?
No, it's one of the first novels though.
That's true. Yeah.
Right. Sorry, anybody waiting for the last one to come out of Song of Ice and Fire, you have to be trolling because it's not going to happen. We might get the next one, but we're not going to get all of them.
Yeah, I know. I'm really depressed about that.
I think you guys were kind of talking about what you guys were reading, and I probably missed. But Derry, what were you reading? Because Britain, I've
got Cold Silver for Souls going on my ebook, Tori's new one, and I've got DCC 6 on audio going. Eye of the Bedlam Bride.
All right, so Funny story. I technically started Eye of the Bedlam Bride. I read the prologue. So.
Ooh, that's such a good prologue too.
Yeah, I think I will get I will move back to that once I finish Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, because at least I can be relatively caught up. I know technically I could read book 7 of PCC, but I'm gonna wait until the physical traditional copy comes out. Yeah.
Okay, this is an interesting conversation. Constantly on a roller coaster of whether I want to start A Song of Ice and Fire or not. I think you would like it. I mean, it's.
I definitely say.
Really good.
I was gonna say. I'd definitely say try it. It's one of my favorite fantasy series of all time. So
Well, I will just say that
that's kind of my Malazan. Like that's the one I always that's the one I'm always like bothering people to go read, or one of them anyway. There's a couple of series I like to bother people about reading, but like aside from like mainstream, like epic fantasy, like Game of Thrones is kind of it for me. Like it's like peak epic fantasy. That isn't like Lord of the Rings.
I will just say that Kim, again, assuming that Gurm's writing style is consistent in A Song of Ice and Fire as in Dunk and Egg. Kim, I feel like you and I, our reading taste our Venn diagram is almost just a complete circle at this point.
Yeah. This is a good thing to comment on for us, though. Hey, Fox, I'm scared because I'm a little princess about anything graphic. This is the disservice that the TV show does the books. The TV show really leaned in to the graphic nature of things. It's not the case in the books. If anything, they kind of gloss over some of the graphics.
I will say, though, the Red Wedding is even worse than it is in the show. Like, if you thought the show was bad, the Red Wedding in the book is even worse.
The Red Wedding is emotional in the book.
No spoilers. But I will just say that Bookborn, who is very, I don't want to say squeamish, but she's very resistant to graphic things like that. I know that she read. She obviously
she was wonderfully.
Yeah.
You know, actually, that's a really good series of reviews for you to go and watch with that in mind, because that was her reasons for not wanting to read the series, particularly in the violence against women kind of category. So, yeah. The show does the books a disservice there.
Apparently, Aaron just got home with food, so I'm gonna go eat food. I just want to drop in and say hi. So,
say hi, Aaron.
I'm going after I'm done eating, then I will rejoin.
Cool. Alrighty. What was I going to say then? The
Game of Thrones books.
Yes, it's that adaptation. Dissociative
kind of
where they're just not the same.
It's kind of weird because like the first season is pretty close to the book, with exceptions of sorts. Like they had some of the themes like Cersei and Robert, like that was mostly like made up by the writers. It's really good, like
I mean, they had to do things very differently in the TV show, obviously, because the books are written from their first-person POV chapters. So you're in everybody's heads. You know their motivations for things. You know how they feel about other characters. And the show can't give you that. The show has to try and explain these, interactions to give you the same vibe without the ability to put you inside a head. So they had to create scenes to show you why these people don't get on. And they had to create conversations to give you the backstory that you get in flashbacks in people's heads.
Yeah.
And it changes the dynamic. And of course, it's a visual medium. So where in the books it can state that these things were done during war, bad things, they kind of have to show you in a visual medium that this happened, because nobody's going to sit down and use the sentence, oh yes, and after the war, this was done to the city. They're just not going to. So they have to show you what was happening.
That's another thing I like about A Song of Ice and Fire. Like the world building isn't like now Martin does into dump sometimes, but like it's not generally. He generally likes to let you encounter the world, but I really like in Game of Thrones the history of the characters. Like you can tell, like they lived lives before. Because sometimes in fantasy, you kind of read these characters and you kind of just take them as they're kind of, you kind of just take them as they're going, you know.
Yeah.
But like in Game of Thrones, like there's that sense like, okay, Ned and Robert, they've known each other for a very long time. There's a history there.
Yes.
I
In
really
that same
appreciate
way
that.
of if you met them as we do at the point of the story when we meet them, you're like, how are they friends? They're so different. Why are they?
No.
There's no sense of they would be friends now, but because we're getting their thoughts and memories and their backstory, we get it. We're like, okay, you've been friends your whole lives. That's fine.
Mhm.
But people get this with me and my best
I
friend.
think the show did a
Because
good
we're
job
so
with.
different.
I'm sorry.
You know, but we have history.
I was gonna say, I thought the show did a good job of conveying that as well. At least
Yeah.
the early seasons, anyway. It's not like that history between the characters. That it's not just like, oh. And don't get me wrong, like I'm not saying like that's the only good way to do like characterization or whatever. I mean, you know, there's plenty of books like I, don't, for instance, on like First Law, like I don't wonder what Logan Nine Fingers was doing before.
To be fair,
You know,
you can
Ned Stark
probably
though, and
imagine
like
it's not
Robert, I'm like,
hard.
no, what were these guys doing? You know?
Yeah. I do want to say here, K-Fox,
Oh.
as an example, some of the violence and gore in The Way of Dan was too much for me. It was for me too, and it's far gorier than A Song of Ice and Fire. Far gorier. I can't. It's difficult to explain, and all I can do is just say, pick up Game of Thrones. It's really good. Like, really good. Edan is pretty violent and is pretty savage. You're right, Daniel. And yes, Peter, who knew Philip Chase had that much violence?
I mean, I'm
in his
not
brain?
trying to. Oh well.
I actually said this.
I mean, I don't want to sound like a tough guy or anything. Oh, sorry. I mean, I don't want to like sound like a tough guy or anything, but I didn't think the Dan trilogy was that bad. I mean, it gets just, but
You're cutting out, honey. I didn't hear much of that.
This density that you find in like a that's where I'm at.
Okay, you're cutting out too much there, sweetie. Didn't hear any of that. But I did, Peter, when I talked to Philip, not long after I read The Way of Edan, I basically said, what is happening in your brain? Like, this is clearly why you're so nice. You've distilled all of the nastiness and cruelty in your life. You just distilled it and written it all out. Because that shit is brutal. And he was like, yeah. Who knew? No, he's a passenger, Shadia, I did check. Darkness gathers, the man loves Beowulf, kind of comes with the territory. That is a very good point. Beowulf is also quite savage and brutal. Brutal and explicit, yes. Everything was equally descriptive throughout, but when it came to the gory stuff, it stood out. It did. I wonder too if it's because we know Philip and he's just such a lovely person that it's a surprise when we get that kind of vitriolic viscera. Because the show did do well with Marjorie and Ramsay. I don't think they did well with Ramsay. They made him quite two-dimensional. He was just sort of there for evil's sake. But Marjorie was wonderful. She was exceptionally well cast and she was exceptionally well played. In fact, if you look online, there is a photo of her name is escaping me, but of the lady who played Lady Olenna at the age of Natalie Dormer when she plays Marjorie, and they are spitting images of each other. Absolutely spitting images of each other. Hello again.
Hello, sorry, I'm back. Yeah, I was in kind of a spotty area.
All good. The worst in the show is Euron by far.
Oh my god, yeah, Euron sucked in the show.
But this is why the fall off happens with the show as we get to the later seasons, because they've made so many changes early that snowballed, because that's what happens. That you make a little change here and it means that you can't do something else later. And in taking out massive parts of the story, you don't get the fullness of the Euron character. You just get this layer of crazy. He is truly scary in the books, like truly scary.
Yeah, he's probably like top one most evil character in the whole series. And they just dropped the whole thing about the dragon tamer, and it's just like so important to the entire thing.
Yeah,
You better be lucky that David
out.
Benioff wrote City of Thieves, because I probably would not have forgiven him for watching Game of Thrones as badly as he and Weiss did if I didn't read like City of Thieves and go like, oh yeah, this guy is a really good writer when he cares.
That still doesn't make Game of Thrones forgivable. What they did to the end of that was wrong. Just wrong. Never look in Philip's basement.
What I was saying earlier before I cut out is I've read The Way of a Dan. I didn't think the violence was that bad, but that's just me.
It's not the level of violence; it's the explicit nature of the gore. It's very.
But then again, I've never really been the most squeamish. Well, unless it's like, I mean, I have my limits, but I'm generally not squeamish.
It's just, for those of us who prefer the cozier end of fantasy, it was a lot.
Fair enough.
And yeah, it caught me off guard. Pete, I love this. Hearing Alan swearing at the profanities in the audiobook, yeah. I forgot it was him, to be fair, to be shocked by. We may sprint. We've been going for about an hour. But, where are we? Shagger, son of Dolph, is the true Azor Ahai. You know your law. My boyfriend and I called Euron Urine because he's such a shallow, non-impressive character in the show. Yeah, he was weak as piss water. It was really sad. It was easy to leave him out, honestly.
I was really sad that they left out John Connington, because I'm like, oh man, like what a great character.
Left out a storyline so important.
That's the whole reason that what's his name? Varys. That's the whole reason that Varys did anything throughout the books, and they just dropped it completely. I was just like, oh my god.
Yeah, it's
terrible.
And it's one of the reasons why it's like, if you enjoyed the first 3-4 seasons of Game of Thrones, read the books, because it's that quality of storytelling, but more. Like, more.
There's
more of it. Because they just left out so much. Even from that first season, that very beginning of the story. And again, it's why it sort of fell off the cliff later, because they left out so many of the underpinnings of the story that now we can't explain why something else is going to happen, because we left out all of the stuff that built toward it. We have to make up something that creates the same drama. And it didn't work. The Golden Company, perfect example. They had to include the Golden Company for the battle at the end, because they had to. Otherwise, who the hell is Cersei fighting with? And we're going to use this army from the book. Nowhere near the complexity or the nuance or any of the motivations that we get with the Golden Company. And they were rubbish, which we know if we read the book. They're an elite fighting force. Anyway. You did not like Pedro Pascal as Oberyn? This might be the first time you've ever said anything, Farnell, that I disagree with. I adored him as Oberyn. Absolutely adored him. He was so good. Don't read a lot of vampire, because they're always a bit bleak, violent, or explicitly sexual. Yeah, don't read Empire of the Vampire. That is not your cup of tea. Jaime Lannister being Warden of the East in the first book, I've always found a little strange. Yeah, it's never really revisited either. It kind of happens and then we don't come back to it. I imagine it's one of the plot points that's just kind of, it's not important to where we end up going. There's been, I watch a really fabulous guy, In Deep Geek. His name's Robert. He's British as well. Time zones will work for you, Peter. He does a live stream every week. He has a wonderful, wonderful explanation of the 5-year gap and what was going to happen and why things have been changed in later books, because, these threads he can't do now because those characters are too young. And yeah. But yes, speaking of, we will be getting the last book of Empire of the Vampire this year. I'm so excited for that. K-Fox didn't know that it was Pedro Pascal as Oberyn. It was my first experience of Pedro Pascal, and love him back again. I think that was the role, though, that really kind of catapulted him into fame, because everyone was watching Game of Thrones. Yes. And I'm caught up with the chat. Look at that. What about you, Britton? Do you think we could go for a sprint?
Okay.
Sound good?
Yeah, that's fine.
Maybe. All right, well, we're at 10 past, so how about we go to, what have I got in the banner? Sprint. We'll go till 40. How's that? Sprinting until 40. There we go. So mute yourself, and we shall read. And we'll talk to you on our return. We are back to live talking. Okay. We had a Pete show up in the chat. Nice to see you, Pete, if you're still around. Britain, did you do any reading or were you just sightseeing?
It's mainly sightseeing. I have a hard time reading when I'm in a car.
Yeah, a lot of people get ill, so fair enough.
So I've had good luck with comics. So maybe I can read a comic during. Maybe I could read some Paper Girls if we have another sprint. But I don't know. But what were you reading?
I'm reading Cold Silver for Souls.
Oh, you got a physical copy. Okay.
Well, ebook, yeah, and I'm really enjoying it. Really.
Yeah, I really liked Phased from Tori. I read that earlier. I read that in April, I think.
Yep, I read it.
It's really good.
I really liked it. It was not nice. That's not the word. It was a nuanced take on werewolves, and I really liked the world building that she does in it. Where there's this sense of they're unwanted in civilization, so we're going to corral them, and I liked it. I liked it a lot.
I really enjoyed it. It was kind of like it was an exploration of like systematic abuse.
Yeah.
And recovering from trauma and like just how much of a task that can be. I'll put it that way.
Oh, absolutely. Anyone who has any kind of trauma they're trying to deal with knows it's a struggle. Every day.
I
remind
shared
yourself.
That. Yeah, I shared that with. I asked Tori. I'm like, so like, were you like, was this like conscious? Like, were you thinking about like systematic abuse of like yada yada? And she was like, no. But that was I'm glad you kind of. I've had a couple people who've come up with that. It's kind of a
I mean, to be fair, I mean, on the scale of trauma and abuse that Tori has touched on in Phased, it can be very personal and very intimate in terms of the story you're trying to tell. But that level of abuse tends to be systematic. It tends to be ingrained in the culture because it's accepted to a certain degree before it's too much. And it's she does do it really well. Where there's clearly an acceptable amount of abuse that the culture allows, and it's very well done, very nuanced, and Tori's 3 for 3 Peter.
I mean, I don't know if it's like this in Cold Silver for Souls, but Tori has a gift for, well, at least from what I've noticed from the one book I've read from her, she really is good at articulating what everything feels like.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Cold Silver for Souls, Pete. Loved all I've read from her, Bloodstones and Phased both. Yeah. You're right, though. There's a very tactile sense to her books. Like you can feel the grit of sand, and you can feel the dust and in your hair, and you're like, I feel this, the scratchiness of straw. She does that incredibly well, and she does a good job of visualizing or spatially explaining what's happening on the page, and it makes it really easy to visualize, which is why for me it's very cinematic, because I can see this scene in my head. There's a shootout in Cold Silver for Souls on this tiny town's main street, and I could see it like so many Western movies, this massive shootout in Main Street, and there's someone behind the horse trough, and there's somebody on a roof, and you're like, yeah, I can see it. I can see it really clearly because she's got it on the page so well laid out, so good.
Yeah, it's too bad. I'll remember what I was going to say. I guess it wasn't important. That's what my grandma likes to say.
Yeah, my mum used to say that too. Can't have been important. It must have been a lie. That's how my mum used to do it.
No, I was gonna. Yeah, I was going to read it for June on the Range, but I just didn't have enough time to just to fit it in.
No,
So
fair
maybe
enough.
next time.
I mean, it's been a
Uh,
quick. I mean, it's taken me a week and a bit, but I've had other things happening. But it's a quick read. Like it's only
oh
been
yeah,
sort of three
I
reading
remember
sessions.
Phase being a quick read, so I imagine it
Yeah,
wouldn't be much different with. I was thinking maybe I could get to Bloodstones in 2026, but I'm thinking for 2026 to kind of tone back the fantasy a little bit, catch up on some of the other genres I enjoy.
yeah, fair enough.
But we'll
And
see. We'll see how it goes.
it's a tricky one. And I said this to who was I talking to? It might have actually been Tori in her last Motley Crue episode. That we tend, as booktubers, we tend to forget that the TBR isn't locked in stone. We can just decide to read something we hadn't thought about right now. Like I could put down Cold Zoo of Souls and I could pick up any one of the books on my shelf right now,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody's going to tell me off.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not actually going to get into trouble for not reading what I said I was going to read. So, yeah. Interesting
I was
conversation.
probably gonna be like, well, I'm just begging for subscribers with the my reading taste. Beyond with you.
Hey, if that's what your goal is, then that's a different matter. For me, it's a pure passion project. So I'm going to read what I
Oh,
want to read.
for me too.
And
I'm being facetious.
but
I
that's
said in
why
the
I have a
video.
tiny channel and I get excited about 100 milestones. I'm nearly at 700,
That's very
which
good.
is astonishing.
I'm getting towards 700 myself.
It's
I'm at 600.
astonishing.
I'm at 638 subscribers. So I was looking at my channel earlier, just kind of looking through some stuff. I'm like, oh, it's at 638 now. That's cool.
Sorry, I like this comment from K Fox. That's why I quit TBRs. I don't like anyone telling me what to do, including past me.
I use it more as like a guideline more than a. Because like this month in like August, I'll basically just be doing mostly mood reads. So,
Yeah,
you know.
I've stopped
But
planning in
I have like
advance.
books I'd like to get read before the end of the year.
I've stopped planning in advance. I know what I'm going to read next, and usually only one of what I'm going to read next because I usually have two or three on the go. Like I'll have an audio going because I craft stuff and I like to have a book going while I've got
Geez,
my hands busy.
how do you keep up with everything then? Like reading a book and audio booking at the same time.
I can't do two books at the same time. That's too.
That's
That's
crazy if you can do that.
like no. I can
Okay.
do a jigsaw and an audio book, and I can sew and do an audio book. I can, faff around in my journal with stickers and washi tape and have an audio book going.
So you're kind of like the Lady Sybil of BookTube. You know, you just like to hang out in your house and
Pretty much.
not play with dragons, but you're like the eccentric lady who like hangs out in her house
I
and
I
plays with
can't enough you.
dragons.
Yeah, very much so. I potter around in my house and I do various things and have an audio book going. And then every now and then I'll be like, okay, you need to remind your eyes how to do this reading thing, and I'll have an ebook going. So, but I'm very flattered being compared to Lady Sybil because she's wonderful. And K Fox agrees, crafting and audiobooks is the best. It's hard when I've got my woodworking hat on because power tools don't work well with audiobooks. But if you time it right, you can kind of make it work. Or you just get really good. I've actually already changed my preset setting for a short forward or back to 30 seconds. So if I miss a bit, I've got time to get to my computer to fiddle with the mouse to take it, and I don't miss anything. But yeah.
I just get distracted real easily when I do audiobooks. I have nothing against them, though I am trying immersion reading this year. That was one of my goals. So I'm going to be reading a book while listening to the audiobook of that book. So
Yeah.
hopefully it'll work out. I don't know how it's going to go, but we'll see.
Now, with my reread of Hob, I usually it's
I'm sure you
taken me
know them
longer
all by
this year.
heart by now.
There are sentences I know by heart, for sure. It's taking me longer this year. I took the break last year, and coming back to it this year has been incredibly emotional. Like, all of them have hit me so hard this time. And I'm not entirely sure why, but there's definitely a sense that taking a bigger gap between rereads is going to mean it hits more every time I hit them. So I may keep doing that. And to be fair, getting them all done in a year stopped being possible when it got to Fitz and the Fool. There was just too many books to do it all in a year, but they haven't been out for very long. So it didn't overflow too much to interfere with me being able to say I've read them annually since, whenever. But yeah, it's been slow this year. I'm about to do live ships because I need to get that out of the way. That's not how I wanted that to sound. I need to have a refresher on live ships because Joanna and Murphy are buddy reading live ships at the moment, and I've already bullied them into saying they'll come and talk to me when they're done, because I think that their insights in particular are going to be incredible. So I'm looking forward to talking to both of them about it. Really looking forward to that. But, don't read Hob on the toilet. You will lose track of time and never leave. Okay. Audio. Audio has to be done while I'm doing something physically that I don't have to think about. Exactly. So K-Fox can sew and listen, but not crochet, because I've learned to crochet much more recently. That's valid. Anything you've got to put brain work into just isn't compatible with audio. And that's why you get so distracted if you're trying to do audio with a lot of things. But for something that doesn't take that level of concentration, audiobooks are brilliant. They're just brilliant. Jigsaws for me, so good. I don't know that I could audiobook and drive, Peter. I don't know that I could. But I also know that since my stroke, that might be a me problem. So, I don't know.
But you can still drive?
I can still. I don't, because I don't own a car, but I can drive. Crochet is for re-listening to old podcasts. Because you have to have something on. Like, there has to be some kind of noise happening.
Yeah, my grandma showed me how to sew a long time ago. I don't really do it much, so I probably don't really know how to do it now, but probably have to ask her again. Like, my aunt can also do it.
It's kind of tragic now that crafting has become, any kind of craft, has become so expensive. Like, it used to just be something you did to get by. Women knew how to spin and weave and knit and crochet and darn. And they're dying skills. And because they're dying skills, they're becoming, what's the word I want? They're becoming niche skills. So they're becoming expensive to get good at. It's really hard. You see, there you go. There's the driving tip. You can audiobook and drive distances on a highway, but not in traffic. Yeah, that sounds like, because you want to be more, engaged if you're in traffic. But that makes sense to me, definitely.
I usually listen to like YouTube stuff when I'm driving. No, I have my phone in like a cubby. I'm not like holding it or nothing. I'm not irresponsible. Don't do that. But yeah, no.
Anyone who's into Song of Ice and Fire, I can highly recommend History of Westeros podcasts, Radio Westeros podcasts, and Indeed Geek podcasts. They're great. All of them have got great voices to listen to. All of them have got really, insightful things to say. And it's not an audiobook. You're not losing plot if you miss a minute. You're just losing a little bit of book context. So, I like theirs. Theirs is great. I don't usually do podcasts, and it's only because I found them via YouTube that I even know they exist. But Tharnell struggles with audio. It's not as good for his memory. Manual driving and audio. Yeah, I don't think that. That's way too overwhelming.
I just get distracted easily. I remember John of Talking Story fame described it as John brain, where he's like, oh, I'll be listening, and then, oh, look, there's a dog.
Squirrel.
That's me. Squirrel. Yeah. No.
But I know I've said this to people as well. It's a skill. Much like when you're little and you learn to read, you have to learn how to engage with an audiobook.
Yeah,
and you get better at it the more you do it. So,
and there are some audiobooks I've enjoyed. Like I really liked the First Law audiobooks by Stephen Pacey.
Yeah.
He's very good.
Really good. They are really good. I've got them on audio as well.
No, it was kind of funny because like I had read, it first before I listened to audiobooks. It was kind of funny hearing him do Glocta because it wasn't quite how he sounded in my head, but so it was interesting.
Well, it's funny you say that because I read them, I eyeballed them first, and then I did.
You eyeballed them first.
And it just makes more sense to say it that way. And the lisp that Stephen Pacey gives Glocta is explicit. It's said in the text that he has a lisp. But when I read it, I didn't give him a lisp when I eyeballed it. So when I listened to it and he had a lisp, it threw me. I was like, that's not what he sounds like.
Yeah.
And then my brain went, oh, yes, it is, because he has a lisp.
Yeah, I was about to say, I thought he would have like a higher voice than like Pacey's, but it's like a real small thing. I am actually considering picking up The Devils just to see what all the fuss is about, because I've had friends who both.
It's not been great, the reception to that.
Yeah, I've heard it's had a bit of a polarized reception. I want to see where I'm fall.
Yep. You should totally try Dresden Files Funnel because James Masters as Spike, perfect. And as
I actually met
Harry
him
Dresden,
a long time ago.
Perfect.
Actually met James Masters years ago at a con. He was a nice dude. Yeah, he was. I talked to him. I knew him from Torchwood before I ever knew about like Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Dresden Files. I knew him from Torchwood because he made some appearances on that show. I mentioned it to him. He's like, "Oh man, that show was great. Man, that should have never gotten canceled." I'm like, "I know. It's a good time."
Marston is. That was my first experience of an audiobook where the person narrating was just such a perfect fit for what I already had in my brain, for what stories were being told. It's like when they talk about wine pairing with food. Like, okay, I kind of know what you're talking about, but until you experience it, it's really hard to explain. And Masters is the perfect pairing with Dresden. It's just perfect.
Yeah, I tend to be hesitant with like big long series because like, I like my good trilogies, but I've heard they're mostly like standalone, so I'm like, oh, okay, I know there's like a mythology. I'm sure the Dresden fans will jump on me for saying that, but I'm like, all right, maybe I'll give it a shot, kind of like a palate cleanser kind of way, but I haven't really felt the itch to read it.
And that's how I treated them for a long time. They were my palate cleansers between Hob. And I say that for a long time until I got to about book 6. And then, no, they were my main read, and I read them all in about 12 days.
Oh wow.
I was like, no, I'm on the roller coaster now. I can't get off. I have to read it till the end. And that's been my experience. Every time I've reread Dresden, I can pace myself on the earlier ones, no problem. And then I get to, book 6, and I'm like, okay, I can't stop now. We're in it. Stuff's exciting. I have to know.
Right. What's the last book I think it was actually First Law, where I finished book 2, and I'm like, okay, I gotta get to book 3 soon. And then I did. And it was my favorite one of the trilogy. I know some people don't like the ending. I think the ending's great. I think it really, nice circle to where we started.
Nice. It is listening to Erica Melnabone.
Oh yeah,
audio subscription.
Elric's fun. It's like the proto. I don't want to call it grim dark because it's not really like not gritty fantasy, but it's definitely dark and weird.
But it is the proto-grim fantasy, and that was literally the intent Michael Moorcock was going for. And I read it when I was, Christ, I don't know. I was trying to think. I was at school. Which school was I at? I was 13 when I read, Elric, and I enjoyed it, but I haven't felt tempted to revisit.
Yeah, they're good, but it gets kind of convoluted once it gets to like the Eternal Champion stuff, and you're like, okay, like. Yeah.
I think too, it isn't, like we were saying earlier about The Way of Adan. It's not my usual genre of fantasy, if you know. I don't tend to like that sort of grittier, edgier fantasy, which is bizarre as I say that out loud because I love Jay Kristoff. Yeah. And Peter's right. Deadbeat through to Battleground is one of the most consistent sections of any series. You're right. They're all just bangers. Insanely amazing bangers. Yeah, I can't wait for it to be over. I don't think I'll continue after Volume 1. Elric is a lot.
Volume 1 of what?
Elric.
Oh. Yeah, it's to be fair, Michael Moorcock was a very young man when he wrote that. And so there's definitely stuff in there that probably hasn't aged very well. It's been a while since I've read
Elric in general is just a very specific flavor of fantasy. And if you don't like it, you don't like it.
I mean, I want to start...
Jay Kristoff, there are people who bounce off that so fast. And they're never going to love it.
I mean, I don't want to start yelling because I'm in a car with 3 other people, but like I remember when I saw Matt's Fantasies review of Conan, and he's like, "Oh man, this is just escapist stuff for young boys." I'm like, yeah.
And it's allowed to be.
And that's what it is.
Yeah.
I hate that review so much, but I don't want to go into that. I feel it's inappropriate to throw shade at booktubers on the internet or criticize them. I try not to go like he sucks, but I'm not saying that. But
I think part of it is allowing the fact that people other than you like things, and they don't have to like the same things. So if you don't like it, that's fine, but don't be blaming that on other people. It's like, dude, if you don't like it, you're just not the intended audience. That's fine. Even I will admit, and I don't like doing it, but I will admit there will be people who don't like Realm of the Elderling. But I'm not going to throw shade at them because that's just sad, and I'm not going to. But yeah. Drusilla was one of your favourites, Capricious Fox. I love that. Have you actually watched Buffy since, Britain? Since you met James Marsden, have you watched it?
To yet. I need to see if it's on a streaming service and watch it. I know a lot of people really enjoy Buffy a lot.
It's just a big gap in the zeitgeist knowledge that you kind of need as a fantasy fan.
What's kind of funny is I'm kind of blocked on like all the like Whedonverse stuff. Not watched Firefly, haven't watched Dollhouse.
Okay, so make it a project because it's
haven't seen Buffy, which is kind of funny because like most of them got canceled except for Buffy. I guess Buffy was just the outlier.
Well, no, because Angel ran for I think 5-6 seasons.
Oh yeah, Angel. I haven't seen Angel.
Dollhouse ran for 2. And
except for the one that like everyone quotes, nothing.
Firefly.
If nothing we do matters, then all that matters is what we do. I've seen that, but I've not seen any of the show.
Yeah, you make a project of it. It's one of those kind of what's the word I'm looking for? It's like Geek 101 to have watched anything in the Whedonverse. somehow it's at the nucleus of so many very geek things. And yeah. Old Charlie is going to throw shade for me. Yeah, those people are crazy. And everyone's entitled to their opinion, even when it's wrong. This is what I like to tell Andrew, Wizard Who Reads.
What, did he not like Realm of the Otherlings?
Oh, he thinks there's only 9 books.
Well,
what is Joss Whedon doing nowadays? I have no idea, because I don't follow him as a person, because he's not a very nice person. But he's also not a criminal, which is something I find annoying with the whole he's been cancelled thing. He's just not nice. And, you know, okay. But, you know, he's never assaulted anyone. He's never, you know, harmed anyone. And
he hasn't
so for him to be
cancelled anybody.
It's upsetting, because he's behind a lot of some of the great geek moments. You know, we can thank him for Phase 1 Avengers. That was not nothing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, I did watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for a little bit, but it kind of has the problem that a lot of, like, superhero stuff has, which it gets a bit convoluted.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, mostly comics. I mean, I love superhero stuff. But,
I just watched some
also, like, the one where, like, Buffy's mom dies. I think I saw that a long time ago, because, like, I remember watching, like, big
spoilers, but it's too old for me to be able to do that. It is an incredibly good run of episodes. That Angels.
Yeah, I had a friend who's a big fan of the Whedonverse. He's like, apparently Buffy went on for like too long, like a season too long than what like Whedon intended.
Yeah, it should have ended a little
bit
earlier than it did.
Like, what are the odds? Like, he keeps getting his shows canceled, but the one that, like, you know, that made it is the one that went on for too long. Like, that's just so funny, I think.
And yet, even the people who say it went on too long, it doesn't negate their enjoyment of it. Like, it's not ruined for them like it is for a Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that tainted the entire experience. Buffy going too long doesn't. It's just a story that ran out of things to say.
Well, what happened with Game of Thrones is they didn't have the endings. Well,
no.
They did, but they didn't really, you know. George didn't, write those 2 freaking books and give them a roadmap.
She slays vampires. So it was just a story being told with slaying vampires as the through line. And they just ran out of interesting ways to sort of build stories around it, which is different than getting something hugely long.
Yeah, apparently from what I've heard, because I read a lot of TV tropes, like I guess the principal of her high school is like evil, but he's also like a really nice dude, apparently.
Depends which principal. Like, this is the point of you know enough to know how much you don't know about Buffy.
That's fair. Yeah.
You know?
Again,
and if the show wasn't as fundamental, not even fundamental, just part of the structure of being a geek, you wouldn't have anything in terms of knowledge about it. But it is part of that structure. So if you haven't seen it, you know there's things you're missing. And Firefly is absolutely you just have to, Britain. It's the rules. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
you're
I know.
a pretty geeky guy, but you can't call yourself a geek if you haven't seen Firefly.
I know I haven't. I really love Cowboy Bebop, so I probably would enjoy Firefly.
No, Britain, you would love it. You would become as obsessed with Firefly as those of us who are obsessed with Firefly. It is worthy of obsession. It is worthy of the cancellation rage. Still, all these years later, the rage remains white hot.
I don't know, there's a couple shows I'm mad that they canceled. Like, I'm mad they canceled Deadwood. That was a great show.
No, Britain. there's you know how cliches become cliche because they're true? Firefly is the most rage-inducing cancellation for a reason. That it was canceled.
Aren't like the episodes like out of order? Like they really
television.
from what I heard, they really screwed over Joss Whedon and the crew in that show. Didn't they like put the episodes out of order or something like that?
They didn't air the pilot,
Uh-huh.
even though they advertised the show with the mystery of the pilot. They aired them out of order on a Friday night at different times. Some weeks they just didn't air it because of sport. And then they didn't air the last 3 filmed episodes, and they aired the pilot last.
That's bizarre.
Yes.
That's so weird.
And
I always kind of felt bad for Whedon,
Yeah.
I always thought he was kind of douchey. But anyway, I always kind of felt bad. I'm like, God, this guy keeps getting his shows canceled, man. Like, I just want to give him a pat on the back, man. Like, from what I heard, like, man, that dude really threw himself into like the process. Like, he really, like, to the point where it was like detrimental to his health. Like, I'm not even kidding.
He knows how to weave a story with an ensemble plot, and he does it exceptionally well. And when you consider some of the people who were in Firefly, this was their first major roles. Alan Tudyk, I don't think, has been out of work since. Gina Torres went on to be one of the most gloriously glamorous women in some of the best TV shows. Nathan Fillion, hello, he's not stopped acting since Firefly.
Yeah, he's going to be Guy Gardner soon, as a matter of fact, because new Superman movie's coming out next week. Looking forward to it.
Going 80,
Can you hear me? Hold on.
Okay. How is that? Better? Haha. Okay. Am I allowed? Am I audible? Is the question.
Oh, I can hear you now. Sorry, my headphones were like, we're going to just stop working. And I'm like,
no, that was me that time. But never mind. Yeah, what was I saying? I was finishing talking about Firefly.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know. It's on like, I think it's on like Disney Plus now because like them and Hulu merged. So I'll have to watch it. My friends have been like, oh my God, dude, you'll like Firefly. And I'm like,
no, Britton, you will love Firefly. You will become obsessed with Firefly because just worthy of obsession, basically.
You're saying Joss Whedon's good at writing ensemble casts from what you were saying earlier.
Yeah. I mean, you look at the way that first Avengers movie comes together beautifully.
Yeah.
And each character got enough focus that you knew what their motivation was, you knew what the friction was going to be between them, and it was all of it was really tight, and you believed it was such a good film. And the cast in Firefly gets that over 14 episodes, and you see it just, I don't know what the word is I want to use. It's like watching an orchestra where everybody's playing an exceptional piece of music, and together it's something even more astonishing. All of these characters have their own motivations, their own inner relationships with everybody else in the crew, and it just is so good. Oh, Ida, what's Firefly? Firefly is a TV show that was made in 2004, 2005, early 2000s. And it is a ragtag crew on a spaceship. And it's basically a space western. So, yeah. It used the male gaze. It's Marina Baccarin as a courtesan. Yes. That's something a lot of people struggle with. The culture is set in Earth's far distant future, but we're not on Earth anymore. We're out in the verse. And
I've heard it's kind of like, I've heard it be described kind of, because I remember reading that like he read like The Killer Angels and was like, what would it be like to be on the side, on a losing side of a war? And that's kind of how he came up with Firefly. 'Cause apparently it was like the American Civil War in space. So
it's very much a sense of when you fought for something that you really believe in and you've given it everything and you lose, what does that do to a person? Where does your headspace go? And that's Nathan Fillion's character. You know, he's been in this huge, you know, culture-defining war. Years afterward, he's now the captain of a spaceship, and it's still impacting him. You know, this I fought for this thing and we lost. And you know, it's the courtesan thing, because the cultures that survived, like the massive cultures, were America and China. You get a lot of Asian influence in a lot of things. So the concept of geisha / courtesan becomes its own thing, where yes, she sells personal services, but it's more than just a physical interaction.
Making whoopee for money.
It's not just that. You're getting a woman who is educated, who understands how to behave in high society, who can be gracious as a hostess.
So you can take her on dates. So it's not
precisely. And as a class of woman, she holds very high social status. People are like, wow, you know, because she's so educated and she has all these talents and skills. So, and then they got a beautiful, the Marina Baccarin beauty, you know, in the absolute freshness of her peak of beautiness. She was stunningly gorgeous. I mean, she's still stunningly gorgeous now, but just so beautiful. Being able to use that beauty as part of her role and not be demeaned by it was really lovely to watch. Might be one of the things that didn't make it to Europe, or maybe you've been living under a Star Trek shaped rock, possibly. But do look it up, because it isn't a great time drain. It's not even a full season. It got cancelled mid-season. So
wow,
that season got 14 episodes. Only 11 got aired. A couple of years later, there was enough fan kerfuffle that they were able to get Universal to pick it up and produce a movie that gave us some closure on the big story beats. So it's 14 episodes and a movie.
I was about to say, did Joss Whedon never say like how he was thinking about ending it? Like ending Firefly?
It's been discussed a lot. There's been a lot of panels over the years and a lot of interviews, and because everyone who finds Firefly then finds all of these interviews, because you're like, I need to know. And there's a lot of things that have been said. There's a lot of things that were being built in that first half a season that once you know where it was going, you can see. And it's heartbreaking because the groundwork was being laid beautifully for a much bigger story. So it's, and yes, you will recognize a lot of characters. Crowley from Supernatural, for instance. I love his character in it. Badger is marvelous.
Yeah, I recognize a couple people just from what I've seen of like posters. Like I'm like, oh yeah, I know a lot of those people. Alan Tudyk and Nathan Fillion, Adam Baldwin. Though Adam Baldwin was pretty well known. Or well, not well known. He was kind of like a character. He was a character actor for a while before he did Firefly. Yeah. He was in Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah.
Like Animal Mother.
Yeah. And yeah. Supernatural is something that Peter hasn't seen. Supernatural has a very female audience because the male leads are glorious. But I mean,
is it one of those shows that came after the Joss Assance, if you will?
Kind
if
of.
You don't mind if you don't mind the pun.
I mean, the thing with Supernatural is if you aren't a woman who's completely crushing on either of those leads, and I can say that because I'm totally one of them, the first 5 seasons are a complete arc. You can stop watching after that first 5 seasons. But that first 5 seasons forms a complete story that's actually really clever. It was by Eric Kripke, who is now doing The Boys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
I like The Boys.
Eric Kripke came up with the story. He was the showrunner. It was his baby. And so, yeah, if you like that sort of tone that The Boys has, where it's very self-aware and kind of can poke fun of itself as it's being itself, that's the vibe of Supernatural. So, yeah.
I think The Boys show is actually better than the comic. I love Garth Ennis. I think he's great. But, yeah,
I haven't read
Boys
the
comic, man. Oh, man. Like, come on, man. Superheroes aren't that bad, Garth.
Fair enough.
He's not a fan of the capes, if you will. We'll put it that way.
I see. Right.
It's not the seething hatred that people like to portray it as in the media, but yeah, he doesn't like him very much.
Who did I crush on? Which one? Why not Bobby? Was it Castiel? Okay, let me make this.
You know what kind of irritated?
Bobby.
You know what kind of irritates me about Castiel? I'm like, bro, that's John Constantine. Like, get out of here with John Constantine.
And he is. Nobody's going to argue with that.
Smoke. He just doesn't smoke cigarettes.
But he is actually an angel. He's not, this troubled soul. He's pure. He's an angel, and
he's not a chain smoking cynical magician.
No. In fact, none of them smoke.
So to be fair, he's not really a magician. No, to be fair, Constantine isn't really a magician. He's more of a con artist. He just knows about magic.
Well, he's a con artist with connections.
Yes.
Yeah.
He literally
Christian Hendricks was in Firefly too.
He literally outwitted the devil. Read Dangerous Habits, also by Garth Ennis. It's fantastic art, which was adapted pretty well in Constantine with Keanu Reeves, except the guy's not freaking British, and that annoys me. I am not going to die on that hill. I will die on that hill. That would have been like put Constantine. If they made Constantine with the atmosphere of the movie and put Matt Ryan in there, you would have had Hellblazer. Like dead stuff.
I'm okay with Keanu Reeves being Constantine in much the same way as I'm okay with. I'm just trying to think which is the best adaptation to really do it with.
It's like having Captain America. It's like having Ryan Reynolds play Captain America. It's like I don't see. I've never felt that Constantine needed that level of wry humor that I associate with being British. The Britishness isn't to me a core element of Constantine. That's a situational element of Constantine. And I liked Keanu Reeves as Constantine. I thought he was able to. I'm not saying like
kind of harried, pressured, weighted. Anyway, I think he did it really well. How's he gonna get out of this crazy situation? Yeah,
which is the draw of most of Constantine's stories.
Yeah.
But again, I'm like, oh man, if you put Matt Ryan, who's the Constantine from the Constantine show, you put him in that if you put him in that Constantine movie, you would have had the Hellblazer comic.
Yeah, you would have, but I don't know that he necessarily, because I struggled with him in the TV show. He just didn't feel burdened enough for me, and that's where Keanu Reeves shone. Like you feel the weight of it. So that's
fair. Yeah, I'll give you that.
And but I mean, that's a question of acting, really, rather than nationality. So, Castiel may look like Constantine, but the characters are very, very far aparty. Yes, they are. Nicely said. The Reavers, at least the Reavers didn't try to do an English accent again. Well, this is true. How much Constantine is in
that's always
Dresden?
fair.
I don't see a lot of Constantine in Dresden.
I mean, I haven't read Dresden, so I have no idea. But if you're a fan of Dresden, read Dangerous Habits by Garth Ennis. It's the best Constantine story of all time.
Okay.
Even if he doesn't really like it anymore, because he's Garth Ennis and he's a cranky old bastard.
It'll go. It's all fine. Constantine is more cynical than Dresden. Dresden remains optimistic, and I
don't think anyone can be more cynical than John Constantine, to be fair.
He's very cynical. Dresden is not cynical. Dresden has hope. Capricious Fox agrees with you. Preferred Constantine from the show. So, and yes, read Dresden.
I'll see if I'll pick up. I'll see if I can find Stormfront at my local bookshop.
Again, this is one where the audio really works. The early ones aren't produced quite as well, so there's a bit of mouth sounds. Never bothered me, but there are people it bothers, and if you're one of them, then be aware. The production of the audio gets better.
I don't think anything will bother me as much as the Lonesome Dove audiobook, where the guy sounds like he has emphysema.
Oh, God.
Yeah, no, it's not good. It's not good.
Yeah, it's the audio for Dresden is just bang on. It's that perfect pairing. It really is. Hey, how are you, Ray? Good to see you. Capricious Fox doesn't dislike Constantine film, just a different preference, which, hey, is fine. And again, it does help
I
too.
like the
Rachel
I like
Weisz
the
was
movie.
in that movie, and she's just glorious.
I like the movie. It just bothers me that he's not British, because I feel the opposite of you.
Yeah.
I think the Britishness is a core part of who John Constantine is. But
Fair
I
enough.
digress.
But you've read more of the comics. I've only read a couple.
True.
So there's that connection that you form with a character, and if that's part of the heart of it, then absolutely.
I still need to read the Jamie Delano stuff, which my friend Slay's been getting after me to do. He's like, it's really good.
Hey, it's hard to beat Slay in what comics he's read.
I know that. I was about to say,
amazing.
Slay's read like everything. Is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Or it feels like it sometimes. I'm like, hey, have you read this? He'd be like, yeah. I'm like, dude, what?
Yeah.
Here's
If
this
Arnold's
real
right
obscure manga I was hearing about the other day. It's like, have you heard of this? And he's like, yeah. I'm just like,
yeah. These are those ones on my shelf. Yeah, Slay's shocking for that. He's quite remarkable. Darnold, Dresden is one of those things. The first book is the worst of them, but not bad. Just that the rest are progressively better.
Also heard it's male gazy, which, Derry, didn't you make a video about that?
Yeah. Me and Murph both did it. And because we were both like, this is so male, because it was really hard at the beginning for me to get over it. I was like, I just can't keep reading this. It's too much. And so the point of the discussion was, is the male gaze in this that bad? And ultimately, at the end of the discussion, Murphy and I were like, yes, it is. And it's still worth reading because it is that good. So, yeah, that was where we fell on that one. The male gaze never goes away, but the story quality of everything else gets better and better and better and makes it worth reading.
I was about to say, noir is a very male gazy genre. So, I mean,
Yeah, and that was formed a lot of our discussion as well. How much of that do you allow?
Does it excuse that? Doesn't that excuse it? Probably not, but it's up to the reader. But that's kind of my response.
That was the thing.
Noir,
it's like, okay,
that's how it works.
If we accept that the genre includes this, how does that translate? Where do we then draw the line for okay or not? And so, yes, the male gaze is a thing, and yes, the books are worth reading anyway because they're amazing. And Ray, the audio of Dresden, I've just finished saying to Britain, so good. So good.
Maybe I'll try the audio. Maybe that'd be part of my immersion reads that I would like to do is try Dresden. We'll see.
Who's from Liverpool? I don't know. not Spike.
I think Constantine's from Liverpool. I could be wrong.
Oh, okay. Oh, if he's a Scouse, then the bloke playing Constantine in the TV show's no good either.
Well, he looks the part, so he captures the spirits. You know, I'll give him some slack.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
No,
being from England is different from being from Liverpool.
I was about to say I try not to be like too anal about like nerd stuff, but it can be hard. We can be a picky bunch.
It's part of why we're in this corner of the world of geekdom, because we're very specific in the things we like and we don't like.
Yeah, it's like if you got like Jai Courtney as like Malcolm Reynolds, I'm sure that would make people upset.
Just
I don't know if you know who Jai
Nathan
Courtney
Fillion is Malcolm Reynolds. Full stop. That end. No further discussion will be entered into. Okay, we're just gonna. That's just how it goes. That's the thing, though. Some roles are so definitively belonging to the actor that fills them. It's inconceivable to think of them being done by anybody else.
Well, for
like
kind of go on the opposite.
RDJ. Who else could be Iron Man? Nobody else.
I was gonna say Christopher Reeve as Superman.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. Some roles are just so belonging to an actor. Trying to make it anybody else's just isn't going to work. So what's a t-shirt? Being from England is different than being from Liverpool. And the Scouse accent scares you wherever you encounter it. It's a strange accent. Hey, Jennifer, I haven't seen you for ages. They wanted Cruise for Iron Man. Oh, that would not have worked.
Yeah, he's too
That's
egotistical.
my taste showing there. I'm not a fan of Tom Cruise. Apologies if you are.
I think Tom Cruise can act. He just kind of likes to phone it in nowadays because he's Tom Cruise. But get him in something like Collateral. Like get him on like Collateral, and you'll be like, oh wow, this guy can really act.
Yeah, but he wasn't trying to be Tom Cruise in that one. He wasn't the handsome movie star. He was playing a character.
Yeah.
Charlie Sheen? No, Thanol. No.
No, it'd be if they did that, they would have gotten the addiction part down.
Well, yeah, I suppose. But
actually,
RDJ
I was about to say RDJ. You know what? That might have been what attracted him to Iron Man. He's like, hey, he's an alcoholic in the comic books. He's like, oh, really? Oh, I love this guy. Let's do it.
That and everything else. RDJ had his face. His redemption in Hollywood is a thing of legend because he
oh man, like Tropic Thunder is probably my favorite modern comedy. I don't know if you've ever seen Tropic Thunder, but
and it was his
oh my god, he was amazing in that movie.
Hey guys, I've cleaned up enough to remember how to act. And everyone,
I took it as I burned all my bridges. This is my last shot. I'm gonna just go out with a bang movie.
Oh no, that was very much he'd turned his life around a long way by then. And Henry Cavill could play anything. Jennifer, I don't know. I mean, hey, I'm not saying I don't want to watch him in anything because I probably will, but I don't know if he could play anything. Although I say that, I liked him when he played Sherlock Holmes in the Enola Holmes movie, and I liked him in the Ungentlemanly. I can't think what that was. Ungentlemanly something. Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, and I liked him in Man of Steel. I didn't like that Storyman story, but I liked him as the character being portrayed. So maybe. Ray, who would you cast as the new James Gunn Batman? I'm still hoping they just merge over Matt Reeves' Batman because I loved Robert Pattinson in the role. I don't know. Britain.
Sorry, my internet was being kind of weird again. But what were you saying before? What were you saying before he left?
Henry Cavill.
Oh man,
he could play anything.
Oh man, that's. I'm always sad. I more blame like Zack Snyder and like David Goyer and just Warner Brothers in general for how badly they did the DC
Superman story.
But he wasn't a bad Superman. Like I
liked him as Superman.
He looked. I think the suit he had on was
He
probably the
looked
best.
right. He
Yeah.
looked right, absolutely. But Ray wants to know, who would we cast in the new James Gunn Batman?
Oh man, I don't know. Like I'm
That's
really
a
bad
hard
at
one.
fan casting. I think Alan Rich. I mean, he kind of already kind of plays a Batman-like character in Reacher, but Alan Richson, I think, would be really fun to watch as Batman. And he's said he would like to play it if he could. So I'll go with Alan Richson for right now.
There you go. Tharnell casts you. So there you go.
Oh, thank you, Tharnell. Yeah.
Oh, Ida agrees. And yes, Jennifer, we're on the same wavelength. Because I don't know that he'd be great.
Lord,
in
I would get ripped on by the fans to be like, oh, he's too short. He doesn't look intimidating.
This is true. Bruce Wayne is tall. So, and this is the weird thing. There are some characters where what they look like is actually important. And this is where, go back to Tom Cruise a minute ago. When he did Reacher, that was just wrong. He's too short.
Yeah.
Part of Reacher being Reacher is his enormity.
And the guy Alan Rich, and they're like, they nailed it. One of
Yeah,
my
they
like
did.
pet conspiracy, one of my pet conspiracy theories about the Reacher show is the Reacher has all.
Yeah. Too soon since the Patterson one. I haven't
It's not
actually
even
seen
funny.
the Patterson Batman. I must, because I do like the idea of him as Batman, because he can act.
He was really good as
might
Batman.
See if I can get that, because it's one of those I know I want to watch, but I always forget when I'm looking for a movie to watch to include that in my search.
And then the Penguin. Oh man, that was incredible.
Oh, that's
Like
Colin
that might have
Farrell.
been even better. Yeah, that might have been even better. To be honest with you,
But that was
like
some
Kristen
incredible
Milotti.
acting.
Like Kristen Milotti was so good as Sophia, or not Corleone, Falcone. Oh my God.
It's so important for any show to get the casting right, because when they get the
Farrell was
casting
incredible
right,
too.
it just sings. You just watch it and like, this is amazing. But there's always sometimes this thing where you're like, everybody except that person was great, and that one person who's not quite right can throw the whole thing. And for me, in the MCU, it's I can't think of the woman's name, but she played Marvel, Captain Marvel.
I actually think the best live action Batman, at least my favorite, is still Michael Keaton. He just nailed Bruce Wayne and Batman as like two separate entities. Like, be like, this guy is Batman? No way, And then he's Batman. He's like, and you're like, oh my God, it's believable.
Yeah, they did cast that well, and I believe him as Bruce Wayne.
But you can believe that he's a normal guy,
Yeah,
when he's
his
not
Bruce
doing
Wayne
his
is the
Batman
best
thing.
Bruce Wayne.
Like Christian Bale, he captured aspects, I think, but
that was just a really great trilogy. The Nolan trilogy.
Ben Affleck, I never bought him as Bruce Wayne. He looked too haunted. Like he looked too much like. He looks always like someone he watched his parents get shot in an alleyway.
If anything, I just think he looks too healthy. I know that sounds like a weird word to use for Batman, but he just looks too hearty. And I don't know why I don't think Batman should look like that, but I don't think Batman should look like that.
He was a beefcake in the movies. I didn't,
I don't know why.
Jeremy Irons as Alfred was great.
I liked Michael Caine's Alfred. I loved Michael Caine's Alfred.
I really liked Michael Caine.
That casting was just top notch. I really did. But then I'm old enough to remember Michael Caine from when he was young and he did action roles and things. So him as Alfred really worked for me. But
I would really love to see like a proper Batman Superman team up. I'm tired of them fighting it out.
Well, I think there's enough material there. A creator could go back through the comics and there'll be a story there that would really work.
I'm like, man, Batman and Superman are bros. Like, there's a lot of fun stories of them just going nuts and like, not going nuts. That sounds bad. But there's a lot of stories of them just going on adventures and
Yep.
fighting evil.
Yeah,
Like, Lex Luthor and the Joker have teamed up again. Like, oh man, we gotta stop them.
I kind of wish.
And I like their dynamic too, because Superman's like the real happy Boy Scout, optimistic person, and Batman's kind of like dour, and they balance each other
Rogue's
out.
the
It's really
cynic,
fun.
Yeah, it's all going to go to Catholic guy. Rogue saying, "Isn't the new DCU sticking with the idea of an older Batman?"
Well, actually, yeah, I guess they kind of are, because I think Damian Wayne's going to be the Robin in the movie, so that could be fun. So it's going to at least be a Batman who's, I don't know if it's going to be like Ben Affleck Batman, who's like angry old man Batman, but it's going to be like a Batman who's been doing it for a little bit.
I wish that the DCU would just let the MCU do its own thing and admit that we missed the train. Okay, we missed the combined universe train, and when we joined it, we got it wrong. Let's rethink. And I wish they would just do their own thing. They don't have to copy Marvel. They don't have to. But
Marvel's kind of at it down at the moment. So, I mean, hey, DC's like, hey, James Gunn, you're good at writing ensembles. Let him write Superman. I was kind of like, really? Can you do that? And then I watched the trailer. I'm like, okay, maybe he can. We'll see.
Maybe
I really like the guy they got as Superman. He seems like he really wants to do it well. And he's like, I was a theater actor. I'm like, kind of like Christopher Reeve. This could be good. Yeah.
Jennifer has just blown my mind.
Oh.
Carl Urban as Batman. I can see it. I can see it. I want it. I do. I want it. I want Carl Urban as Batman. Actually, I say that. I'd be quite happy with Jensen Ackles too. There's a lot of fan art out there for Jensen Ackles as Batman. And he's in his 40s. So, Yes, Carl Urban is Éomer. And, he was also Judge Dredd. And, he was great. And his version of Judge Dredd was amazing. But that would mean superheroes are both fantasy and sci-fi, because he wouldn't be able to wear a beard for Batman.
I did see someone said Carl Urban is Batman. I'm like, he was a good Dredd.
I'm there for
He
that.
could do it.
Yeah, I am totally there for that.
Which I've heard they might be bringing him back as Dredd, but with the boys crew, I'm like, oh man, please.
I would love to see him as Dredd again. He got it right.
Yes, and he never took the mask off, thankfully.
Yeah, which is why he got it right. It wasn't about him as an actor, and it was about being Judge Dredd, who doesn't show his face. And I also like the idea of Jensen Ackles as Batman.
I like that too. Yeah,
the fan casting on that, the fan art of that is always impressive, and he does that kind of world-weary, cynical thing well. And yes, Carl Urban was Cupid in Xena. A more debonair Batman could be the guy who played Lucifer in the Lucifer series, Tom Ellis.
Really?
Maybe.
I watched a couple episodes of Lucifer, and I was like, okay. I'm kind of sick of the slick bad boy Satan,
What, you'd rather have the dumpy, overweight Englishman Satan?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I'm kind of tired of that. You know what I want? You know what Satan I want in movies? I want the freaking Viggo Mortensen from The Prophecy threatening to eat people's hearts out.
Oh my God, The Prophecy is one of the most underrated movies. I was
about to say it's insane. I love that movie. Probably my favorite. Funnily enough, I really like Constantine's Satan. Peter Stormare was really good, but I really liked Viggo Mortensen in The Prophecy. He was so good.
Everything about that film is amazing. But then Christopher Walken is always amazing. So Actually, that's the point. Have you seen what's it called? It's called Near Dark. It's a vampire movie with Lance Henriksen.
Oh, I've heard of it. Yeah, Bill Paxton.
You would like
Bill
that.
Paxton in it.
Maybe. I don't remember him in it, but it's been a while since I watched it. You would like Near Dark.
Oh.
It's
I watched a
too
movie called. I was actually debating this with a friend of mine yesterday because we didn't care for Sinners, but I watched a movie called Sinners a few months back. That was really good.
That's the
I really
recent one.
liked
It's
it.
only just finished in theaters
Yeah.
here.
I really liked how they did vampires in that movie. I'm like, oh, they're not.
Yeah.
They're not
The
like-
hype of Sinners has been great.
They're not like. Oh man, they're not like super emo. Like, oh, I'm a vampire. You know, those Anne Rice vampires. You know.
Ha, funny.
My soul is filled with darkness, you know. It's like, oh my god, get out of here with that.
Yes, I agree, Ray. The premise of Sinners is right up my alley. I'm like, yep, I will watch that as soon as I have access to it on something streaming. So,
Yeah, no, it's
but yes, there's not much else I really want to see in terms of new movies.
yeah.
I do want to
movies
watch
have been-
Mobland, the TV show that's on Prime.
Yeah,
I think.
movies been kind of not it
Everything's
right
the
now.
same in movies,
Yeah.
which is why
I just
Sinners
think-
has really caught my attention. Because I'm like, oh, that looks different.
So 28 years later, I saw that because they finally decided to do something with the 28 Days Later.
Oh yes, I'm
franchise,
looking
you know,
forward
like-
to 28 years later.
And
Yeah.
Danny Boyle's like, "Hey, Alex Garland, you want to get back on the
Yeah.
28 Days train?" He's like, "Yes, I do." And it was
Yeah,
a pretty
I
good
am
movie.
looking
I enjoyed it.
I haven't seen it yet, but yeah.
And I
I am.
rewatched 28 Days Later. I'm like, this is a great freaking movie.
28
We have
Days
more.
is an astonishingly good movie. When you
And I'm like,
consider
can
that they filmed those scenes in London, without closing off any streets, they just
I'm
timed
like-
it.
I'm just yelling at Hollywood, like, "Hey, Hollywood, could you make more movies like that, please? Like, I'd appreciate it, you know, from
They're
a
not going to
concerned
take the
fan."
risk, though. No. They're just not going to take
Or,
that
you know,
risk.
do something like Sinners, just like have a director who's proved themselves and just let them go nuts. Like, could you do that? I'd appreciate it. A concerned
Oh,
fan.
If more risks like that could be taken in movies, we would get some amazing movies. We would also get a lot of rubbish movies. And I can understand business-wise why they don't, because that's a lot of money to throw at things and hope. But in a creative way, I really wish they'd take the risk. I really do. I'm really tired of the same stories, because it's all the same stories. If it's not a rehash of an old story, it's a reboot of an old story, or a sequel to an old story, or a prequel to an old story, or a made-up installment to a new old story. You're like, can we just... Pete. That's how the business is supposed to work. Throw money at things and hope they work. No, that's how risk-taking works. Running a business is you put money into the proven earners. So I wish they would treat it as risk-taking, with the output of that being to encourage creative growth and interesting stories instead of MCU installment 78.
No, it's man.
I have not seen the trailer for Project Hail Mary.
I kind of lost interest in Andy Weir because I heard the premise of Project Hail Mary and I'm like, oh, okay. So are you just gonna do the whole snarky science guy goes on some wacky, scientifically authentic adventures? I'm just like, okay, yeah, that's fine, but just
The premise is similar, but it's a very different story. I prefer The Martian to
Oh, you
Project
read
Hail
it?
Mary, but I enjoyed Project Hail Mary.
Oh,
And people who read them the other way around say the same thing. They like Project Hail Mary more, and they enjoyed The Martian. So, yeah.
but I've heard it's good. Most people I've met liked it, so
There you go. Ray's about to watch 28 Days Later. Awesome. Great film. Cillian Murphy is astonishing, you know. Oh,
Yeah,
and if you don't know the
28
book,
Weeks
don't watch
Later
the
is also
trailer.
pretty good.
Pardon me?
Oh, I was about to say, you could also watch 28 Weeks Later, though. I mean, you don't really have to. It'll stretch
Robert
your
Powell,
suspension
I
of
liked in
disbelief
that.
a little bit. Oh, he was fantastic. And there's
Yeah, there
people who are
is a
like,
more
oh,
of a
they're acting
disbelief
so
involved.
stupid.
Oh, they so are.
Where I'm like, well, it's like, oh, they're acting so stupid. And I'm like, okay, we had a global pandemic about
Yeah,
5 years
we
ago
do.
where where the whole world decided, we're going to go against common sense. And,
Yeah.
you know,
That is
so
true. That is
don't tell
very
me
true.
it's unrealistic.
Before
Get
the
outta here with
pandemic,
that.
you were allowed to say it was unrealistic. After the pandemic, you have to admit that's entirely likely.
I'm glad we didn't I'm glad it was COVID, which is kind of like the flu, and not the rage virus. Because the rage virus is
we would all
terrifying.
be dead. We would all be dead because of the stupid. So, you know.
Donald Trump's
Humans
just
are
like,
stupid.
oh yeah, you know, rage virus, it'll be fine, and then just turn.
No, we would all be dead. Very fast. Actually, I say this, it happens so fast that New Zealand is the best place to live because ain't nobody getting here. The rage
That's actually
virus.
one of the points of 28 Days Later. Like,
yeah,
that's actually one of the things about I think is so interesting about 28 Days Later. That kind of irritated me about 28 Weeks Later. I'm like, no. This whole thing is just going on in the UK. The UK is an
because
island.
it's so fast
So
that
they can
there's
just
no way it can get out.
They can kind of, yeah, and it's just like you can just shut down England, and 28 years later plays with that. Like you can literally just close off England to the world and just go on as normal. You know.
Yeah, I actually like the fact
they kind
that
of play with that a little
and
bit in
gone,
28.
we're not taking the end of 28 weeks as canon. I was like, thank goodness, because it didn't make sense. So, yeah. Because it wouldn't.
Yeah,
and that was the
kinda
wonderful
dumb.
thing about being in New Zealand when COVID hit. It was so much easier for us to go, no. And we're an island. We can close our borders.
You can just go.
You know?
You can just go to Hobbiton and hang out there until it all dies, till it all blows over. To quote another zombie movie.
When COVID was peaking around the world and it was overwhelming hospitals and people were dying, we had two.
And
two cases. And we have them now. We still have ongoing cases, but because we got through that peak that was just destroying infrastructure around the world, we came through COVID really exceptionally well because we're an island and we could. And that would be the case with the rage virus. You know, if anybody on a plane had the rage virus, everybody on the plane would get the rage virus and the plane would crash. Nobody with the rage virus is getting to New Zealand.
Yeah, again, it's just that was the one thing that bothered me about 28 Weeks Later. I mean, I can deal with all the U.S. military being stupid because, like, COVID. Like, again, what you said was pretty well put.
We
but
proved that
like it's spreading around the world. Like, I'm like, like, why'd you do that? I really like the idea that it's just contained to Britain.
Yeah, because they built that into the rage virus producing so quickly. And it's something they got right in the Planet of the Apes trilogy, the latest one, where they showed this, what did they call it? Whatever the infection was, they showed it spreading from the pilot, but they gave it a long incubation time. So they allowed for that spread. And it made sense. You're like, yep, okay, cool. It spreads, via air. So you're like, magic. That works.
Yeah, like with the rage virus, it's like that,
Yeah.
Sorry, Scottish fool, if you're still here and you're just like, what is they talking about?
It's okay. It's an old film. As an introvert, I had no issues socially isolating. Me either. Like, I literally didn't have to change anything I did. I did have to make a mask so that I could go and get groceries. But even that didn't change. I still went when I normally went and did exactly the same thing I normally did.
I was just mad I couldn't go to the bookstore for a while. I got really depressed during COVID.
A lot of people did. because it
that
was such
I'm not like a
change.
super. It's not really like super extrovert, you know. I mean, I like to hang out at my house, you know. So that didn't really change, but it was just like you couldn't go anywhere. That's what sucked. You know, I was just real depressed, bro. It was not. 2020 was not a fun year. I'll just put it that way.
And it wasn't for a lot of people. And what I found interesting was watching how other people reacted made me realize how not normal my normal was, because everybody was freaking out at what they couldn't do. And I'm like, don't get
Yeah,
it.
there was some fun memes about like the extroverts during COVID, and they're just like trying to claw out the door.
Yeah, they're
And
just
then
climbing the walls.
and then the introverts are just sitting around reading a book or watching TV.
Yeah, we're like, that's fine. We're good. I dread
It's
to
pretty
think,
funny.
Payfox. That's hard. The kids, I really feel for anyone who had kids during COVID, because that was a lot.
It's like, Mommy, why can't we go to a playground? It's like,
Can we just go and do something? You know.
It's like,
But
you
yeah.
have your video games? Go away.
You know,
Don't
when
play
you
a
consider that the
PS3.
social interaction for kids is so critical, you know, that peer socializing with people of their own age is so critical. And there's a whole generation of kids in that window of time,
You know,
who
I
didn't go
may,
to school
you
and
know, I
didn't
may
get that
give.
socialization. It's freaking scary.
I was going to say, you know, I may give humanity a hard time, and there's a lot of things to give humanity a hard time about. But I was a little nervous when COVID first happened. I'm like, oh man, we're gonna have like a freaking 28 days later situation. But luckily we didn't. So you know what? I think we're doing better than we thought. A lot of people saying the world's going to crap right now. But I'm like, you know what? We solved COVID in like 2 years. I think we're
But
doing
this
better
is
than we
the thing, we
think we
didn't
are.
solve COVID. The problem wasn't COVID. The problem is the infrastructure not being ready for COVID.
This is true.
And,
Yeah.
and that was the thing that they did here, which was, and they explained it beautifully. They're like, we just need to not have a peak of cases, because that overwhelms the system, and then we get this, you know, diabolical thing. And now we still get
But it
cases
didn't
of
turn into
COVID,
the
there's still people
post-apocalypse.
suffering, but it doesn't destroy the whole system. So Peter didn't have to sit his GCSEs. Dude, that's kind of cool. And apparently America will collapse without Starbucks. Okay, Starbucks gets a massive minus score here, because that's not okay. What about Starbucks is essential? I'm sorry. I don't understand.
I'm not really a coffee guy, so
I don't drink coffee at
don't
all.
ask me.
But yeah. Well, Jennifer's off. Lovely to see you, Jennifer. I haven't seen you for what feels like forever, so it's just fabulous seeing you. And I might actually take that as a bit of a impetus to call it, because I've had
Yeah, I
a
was about to
wonderful
say,
time
it's.
hanging out. And thank you for visiting, Britain. That was lovely.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's very kind.
And drive safe, and hey to the family who have been listening to us babble on. And
Sorry for the goodness.
so who have been keeping us company also. And yeah, I hope everybody has a wonderful week, because mine has now kicked off to a fabulous start. And we'll catch you all another time. Bye.
All right.